So today we're diving into the incredible work of Michael Pollan. Now you might know him from his writing on food, but he's also taken this amazing journey to the very frontiers of the human mind. Let's get ready to unpack the science behind how you can actually change your own mind.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your brain is just stuck on a loop? Replaying the same worries, the same negative stories over and over again? It's such a common feeling, right? This sense of being locked into patterns that we just can't seem to break.
And this is where Michael Pollan's work gets really fascinating. He says that if you want to change your mind, you first have to understand its architecture. The whole blueprint, it turns out, is neurological. So let's go ahead and explore that inner landscape.
Our first stop is the ego. But wait, we're not talking about arrogance or being full of yourself. We're going deeper. We're exploring the ego as a biological thing, a little narrator inside of us that actually has a physical address in our brain.
Okay, so meet the default mode network, or DMN for short. You can think of it as your brain's main office for all things me. It's humming along when you're daydreaming, worrying about what's next, or thinking about something that happened yesterday. You know when you're driving a familiar route and you suddenly realize you don't remember the last 5 minutes? Yeah, that was your DMN taking the wheel. Pollan has this brilliant name for it. He calls it the ego's address. It's literally where our sense of self lives. But here's the thing about the DMN, it kind of has two sides. In a healthy state, it's like a useful conductor of an orchestra, helping us manage our lives, plan things out. But when it gets hyperactive, it can turn into a total tyrannical ruler, trapping us in those endless thought loops, that rumination, that's so common in things like depression and anxiety.
So how does it get so tyrannical? How does it take hold like that? Well, Pollan uses this really powerful metaphor to explain how our thinking becomes so rigid. It's just a brilliant way to visualize what's happening inside our own heads.
Imagine your mind is a big, beautiful hill covered in fresh snow. At first, it's a blank slate. Now imagine your thoughts are a sled. The first time the sled goes down, it makes a little track. Do it again, and the track gets a little deeper, and again, and again. Before you know it, those tracks have become deep, frozen ruts. Soon, every single thought just gets pulled right into that same old path. It's like our consciousness gets locked in, and we can't steer a new course. Our habits, our thoughts, our behaviors, they all get deeply ingrained. And Pollan just captures this perfectly. He says, habits are a form of gravity for the mind. So if you're stuck in those ruts, you need a fresh fall of snow to remind your mind that, hey, it can still steer. So, what is this fresh fall of snow? How do we get that big neurological reset we need to fill in those deep, deep grooves? Well, Pollan explores several ways to do this. The most famous, of course, are psychedelic experiences, which are now being studied really rigorously in clinical settings. But there are other methods too. Things like deep meditation, certain kinds of breathwork, fasting, or even just having one of those truly profound moments of awe watching a sunset. And what do they all have in common? They all have this ability to temporarily quiet down the default mode network.
Okay, so what actually happens when our inner storyteller, that DMN, goes quiet for a bit? Well, this is where things get really interesting. The boundaries of the self start to dissolve, and the world can suddenly feel, well, re-enchanted.
You could almost think of it as two different states of mind. On one hand, you have the ego-bound mind, right? High DMN activity, rigid connections. But then you have the connective mind. In this state, the DMN is quiet, which allows for all these new fluid connections between parts of the brain that don't normally talk to each other. And that shifts us away from that constant self-narration and towards a really profound sense of unity. And the results of this shift? They are absolutely remarkable. People report what's called ego disillusion, where that sense of a separate I, or me, just kind of fades away. And what rushes in to fill that space is a surge in empathy, a deep connection with other people and with nature, and what a lot of people describe as a spiritual awakening. It's this incredible shift from feeling isolated to feeling deeply connected. And one of the most powerful results of this whole thing is the experience of awe. Pollan's research shows that awe is so much more than just a fleeting feeling. You could even say it's a biological necessity. When you encounter something truly vast, it literally shrinks the ego. It can reduce inflammation in your body, and it actually encourages kindness. How amazing is that? Now, it's so important to get this next part. This mental reset isn't about escaping reality. It's actually the opposite. It's about returning to reality with fresh eyes and rebuilding our consciousness from a place of connection. And this is what Pollan calls the art of unlearning. So what does it even mean to unlearn?
Well, it's the really essential work of shedding those old mental habits. We spend our entire lives building these predictive models about how the world works. And unlearning is the process of taking those down piece by piece so we can see reality with the fresh, curious perspective of a beginner's mind. And this might be the most important takeaway of all. Pollan reminds us that real, true change isn't just about learning new things. It's about having the courage to abandon the old stories, the old ideas that have carved those deep, deep ruts in our minds. So Pollan's work leaves us with this huge, powerful idea. For centuries, right, we've looked outward for discovery, to the stars, to the depths of the ocean. But maybe, just maybe, the most vast, uncharted, and transformative territory of all is the one that lies within our own consciousness. And the only question left is, what will you find there?